Hi beautifuls, welcome to YILDIZ Readings 5D for your moon energy update and all things esoteric. Here at YILDIZ Readings we cover the astrology, we cover moon energy, twin flame path and more. In this video you're going to get the tips, tools and tricks how to deal with the energy, what circumstances can be coming up for your zodiac sign, and at the end of each video I will do a guided meditation and there potentially can be added additions of your chakra reports. Now we all don't like long intros and I am a bit of a comedian, so without further ado, please sit back, relax, enjoy the show and feel free to give me any feedback as to any additional content you may be requiring in your life. Love and light guys, let's get into the energy. Let's try and make sense of what this Virgo moon can mean for us individually. Now first we need to intellectualize what Virgo energy is. Number one, it does come down to your daily routine. They're fantastic analytics, perfectionism, structure, very similar to Saturn. And they are Mercury in orientation. We are in the shadow energy at the moment of Mercury direct, but it will be there till the 13th. So really with the Pisces energy coming through, moving into Pisces season, because this energy in a resonance at the critical degree, we're moving out of one cycle and beginning a new. But we first must sit with that energy to allow it to really settle in order to understand what the last few months have meant and what the last 6 months have meant. What we're really needing to understand is the fact that we have come out of a portal, so to speak. We've had this very unique experience during Mercury retrograde, which is very Virgo in nature, in the house of Aquarius, and it's in shadow phase, as I mentioned, till the 13th. Now, because we are moving into Pisces season, you will find that it's a deeply intuitive frequency. So you may not completely know where you're going, how things are going to pan out. It's more intuition based. However, a lot of us may need to get grounded, get our energy anchored in, make sense of all that we have endured through this circumstance and potentially what has been going on in the collective. Now, there is a shift within each of our lives and a circumstance within the house system, within your zodiac sign, where it's calling upon us to look very logically, rationally and practically to shift these things about, to create that balance. And it's also because during this Mercury retrograde, it really did give us an opportunity to see what we could take with us. And it's a little bit like the Fool card in the Tarot. So yes, we can feel that we need to emotionally let go of things. It can be emotion based. It is in the chakra system relating to astrology, very Chiron energy. What do we mean by that? It is the wounded healer, and we currently have Aries in Chiron. So with this transit at a very personal nature, through this transformation into the age of Aquarius, we are having that reset button, but needing to, obviously, it's a bit like going on an esoteric spiritual journey. Okay, what luggage can I take with us? The Fool card in the Tarot is very much the 0 degree point, where there's infinite ways this can go. We did have the opportunity during this process to see what was working and what wasn't, and we may need to lighten the load, so to speak, so that it doesn't become a burden. We will have a need to balance. Saturn restricts, Jupiter expands. And if we're overzealous, and it can be to the detriment of our health and balance. So universe is sort of giving us an opportunity to see the error of that and to be rational, practical, pragmatic. Now, the zodiac signs where it can at a degree point affect mostly, but it will affect all of us collectively because we do have 12 houses in each zodiac sign, is Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius and Pisces. So being a full moon, it is an emotional release. So my highest suggestion would be use crystals. You can do spiritual baths. You can also get to a point you can sit with your emotions and journal. If there's a circumstance relating to the house system per zodiac that I mentioned, you can use balances connected to that, and I'll try and tune into where that potentially can be for each individual. So let's get into the first sign, which will be the earth elements. Obviously, for the grand entry for Virgo, we will start with such. Okay, Virgo, as this is a full moon for you, this can be a very emotional time. You may have been going through circumstances, and it can feel energetically very personal. It can feel a little bit like an existential crisis, but there can be a completing of one way of being and a brand new beginning of a new. Now, you may have been working on the way you show up in the world. Now, that can be your dress sense, it can be circumstances surrounding health, the demeanor, all things first house. But it's not just how people see you. It's your emotions of how you're understanding yourself a lot better. So initially, if there's been projection placed towards you, it's really sitting with that emotion and realizing it's not personal. Projection is the reflection, and that's for the individual. So please, by no means, take that energy point blank zero personal. But this is a brand new beginning for you, and over the next 2 weeks, it can be very interesting. You're very Mercury in energy, so your intuition should be more heightened. But directly, it can affect your zodiac sign, being that it's the first house placement. Try to temper. When I say temper the emotions, because it can be emotional in nature, especially with cross wires that Mercury is in shadow. And we do have Pisces season we're directly moving into at this point that can be preparing us for that energy coming in. So this can be within your contracts, your intimate connections, your relationships, your work life, and definitely, with it being higher heart chakra, and we have Aries and Chiron at the moment, really paying attention to deep, deep connections and how to build that bridge. But maybe at a very personal level, you may need some quiet time to sit with it, to reflect, and have a code word if you need to for the individuals around you. So that you can sit with that and you can experience that vibration. You may feel more fatigued, and that can be for all of us collectively. So if you do, just sit with it, trust the process. Beautiful Capricorn. Yours falls in your ninth house, and this can be deeply frustrating. Now, you may have had some circumstances relating to movement. It could have been to do with your belief systems, your values. It can be education, it can be with children, but it can also be if it is relating to your work life, where you could be dealing with, networks and cross wires and circumstances to that degree. But nevertheless, ninth house placement. So there may be a cycle in a way your viewpoint could be changing, your emotions. But if you have had complications in that area, it should start easing up as the weeks progress. But definitely there could be emotions relating to if you do have family in a long distance, or it could directly be impacting you, the stress, the frustration. Definitely there can be things to do with your purpose that you spiritually can be looking at, and also can directly relate to marriage, and a transformation inside of that, be it it's old or new. And how you feel about that could be breakdowns in the situation, changes and transformations, and maybe even meditating upon previous connections. Some of you may actually be looking at upgrading a vehicle also, because you do have Pisces landing in the third house. Now, from a meditation point of view, if you've had some challenges in the ninth house, this is religion, education, foreign countries, travel, and to balance it, you do require the third house. So this can be very beneficial for you at this point. It can be quite beneficial. Trust in the process, understand that this too is going to transform. And if you were having frustrations as it moves direct and as we move through this transit, it may be things that you need to come to terms with in letting go. Taurus, this year is really shaking things up for you, and I think as you move along through this year, it will very much develop you to a very different level. It is a very unique transit for you, especially because you are in the house of Uranus and Taurus at the moment. Now, we did have a lot of energy last month, and you will feel a lot better moving into March. And that's because we had Black Moon, Lilith and Taurus, we had Mars and Taurus, and we also have Uranus and Taurus, which is making 3 squares this year. So moving through this Virgo energy, you know, if you were having subjects to do with emotions, inner child wounds, subjects relating to relationships and coming to terms with those circumstances and co-creative endeavors, you may find it should ease up, but it's coming to terms with those things, and definitely a lot of inner child energy coming through. You will find if you are working on a creative project, you may take a different approach to it. Some of these circumstances also can be, you know, looking after our health, especially when it comes to feminine energies. Again, it's better to wait after the full moon in Virgo, but nevertheless, it can be emotions coming up for that. Those of you that had children, maybe even from a psychological point of view, you may get a little bit of reprieve now, but you might feel extremely tired. Some of those hopes and dreams and aspirations that you're really wanting to move towards, you may find, and this could be development, it could be a new cycle theoretically, that, you know, you've been working on a business, for instance, and you suddenly see the epiphany of how you can shift things around. From a children point of view, it could be that they're getting into that maturity level now and they're transforming, or that somehow you're moving the routine around to actually find a creative solution. We do need to be mindful not to push it in the first 2 weeks. Even though we're moving through it, it's addressing the elephant in the room, metaphorically so to speak, and then doing something about it as we proceed forward, you know, taking the direct steps over the next 2 weeks. Okay, we're on to the air signs. So air signs, as I mentioned, we'll start off with Gemini because yes, this is at the close axis. So for Geminis, this can be heavy hitting energy, but do trust the process. It's temporary. It's giving us a solution and we're shifting the energy around. So on to Gemini. Isn't it bad enough, Gemini, that we have the North Node in Gemini putting all that pressure on you? Love and light, Gemini. Now, we're having the Virgo full moon in your 4th house. So if you feel like you have been running in multiple directions and everyone's needing upon you, or maybe housebound and, you know, needing to really change things up, this can be a time where some of you may be moving home and saying goodbye to an old way of being, or it can be, you know, completing a task at home. There also could be subjects to do with closing one cycle emotionally and maybe even regressing back at a psychological level. Some of you may need to shift things about, and there might have been dramas. Now that you've seen them during this Mercury retrograde, because Aquarius directly is hitting your 9th house. You know, the bigger picture, the trajectory of where you want to be in life. This could even be really wanting to potentially move closer to family, move closer to groups of people, feeling a little bit in the disconnect. But it also can be where you're leaving one tribe and moving towards another, but there is a transformation in that area. Virgo is very healing in nature. You know, and I generally say when we get nervous, focus on service. But in this instance, it's almost like, no, please sit with the energy, tune into it, or recover rather. You know, take the time to observe. The retrograde was pretty full on. This is the first in history with both Saturn and Jupiter there, so it's only natural that a lot of us can feel quite wowed and okay, no, the writing's on the wall, we need to shift these circumstances about. So if your daily routine or your accommodation or something to that degree is coming up and you want to shift it about, check into how it resonates with you and what those things are. This can even be creating healthy boundaries with individuals and rewriting your schedule in that story. Also relating to Pisces, moving into Pisces season for you, Gemini, you may have real large hopes and dreams, and this could even be quite lucrative for you. And although I'm not a financial advisor, having both the 4th and the 10th house, yes, this can be running businesses from home. This can be recreating structure, and also can be earning money off investments. But, you know, making that dream happen is one thing, but psychically, and, you know, how can I put it? your dream in a Neptune state, it's the things intuitively that you're sensing you could do. It might have been during the adversity actually observing some creative solutions, and over the next 2 weeks you may find these things. So try to keep as grounded as possible. Especially when it comes to home, it's a great time to clear your home energy. Even prior to the full moon, if you find yourself throwing things out, it's pretty normal. I wouldn't, say, hey, throw everything out. But I mean, if you do find that you're decluttering and things like that, it will aid you. But try not to burn out during this time, because this is a time of healing with both Pisces and Virgo there. So ease ourselves into this, and, be gentle with yourself during this time. Malanta, Aquarius. Okay, dolls, you guys have had it all going on. All last year you had Capricorn on the 12th, and now we had first house placement. You might have felt like everything was coming at you over the last 2 months. Now, although you are in your natural element with these planets, retrogrades and those of you experiencing Saturn returns, this could have been pretty darn exhausting and very confusing. The Virgo full moon is about allowing people in. We deem the 8th house placement as births, deaths, endings, and legacies, but it's also a need and desire to have closeness, connectedness, deeper intimacy within our connections. This also can be from an analytical point of view. Really, this could be legacies and wills. If that's what it is, my love and thoughts are with you. But at an esoteric level, some of you and many of you will be from a spiritual point of view, really wanting to create a very firm foundation, shifting things about. It's very Pluto in nature, the 8th house, so it's both logical and practical, but feasible. It's very, very Pluto. You're looking at this very practically, and if you're not, as we move forward, these solutions will arise to assist you. If you are triggered, let me think. To me, it's really feeling like base chakra, because it's physical foundation energy. It's assessing the validity of a situation and how to shift it about so it is stable. So if you're imbalanced, it may be a lower back, lower base chakra energies. Balancing that can help it. Definitely you can try having baths and breathing techniques to calm the frequency and just sit with the vibration. Pisces is falling in your 2nd house. We do need to be mindful of communication, especially moving into next month, because we're going to have interesting placements with Gemini, the North Node, and definitely with the Pisces energy. You could be speaking very spiritually, but also you may find that you need to be cautious about expenses, monetary wise. We'll leave it at that at this point till next month. We'll tune into that after. But there is this creativity and this dream, and what you're going to be investing in potentially could be quite lucrative. But at the moment, with that 8th house, it's like the setup of these things. So maybe you had some frustration during the retrograde, but you should start to see things move forward. There can be a tying up of loose ends at this time, and coming to terms with life, so to speak, and births, deaths, endings, emotions relating to that. Libra, yours falls in your 12th house. Now, some of these creative ideas can be coming through extremely psychically, but also having to be, very cautious about how we say things. Let me put it this way. Psychologically, 12th house is subconscious mind, hidden resources, secrets, enemies, and social responsibility. Some of that might have become quite a burden, but your reality has shifted. Yes, it can be testing moving into it, but you can find a lot of closure. You may not have had time to think about things. You may not have had time to gain that crown chakra back. So definitely clear your crown chakra. You may end up getting headaches through the third eye, especially if there's a spiritual blockage. So sit with the energy, allow it to come through, but create healthy boundaries with individuals. Take a little bit of time. I've been telling you, I don't know why I'm saying moving into March. It's like a reciprocity. It's like just take a moment, Libra. Take a moment to understand things. Some things can be coming up towards guilt, and it could be this battle of the mind emotionally. But definitely, if you have been dealing with adversity, and during Mercury retrograde, there was a lot of tension from that fifth house. It could have been to do with creative projects. It might have been to do with also balance, and very strongly that's coming through for all of us collectively, but in individual houses in our lives. And for you guys, I do feel either relating to love, work, creative endeavors, really having some downtime. The need for that balance inside of life now is really calling you. So you're having to become organized. Now, not necessarily smack bang on the day of the full moon. Meditate, sit with it. There could be a circumstance that plays out around then to trigger and activate that. Or it may have been something that was really leading up to this Virgo full moon, and you're in acceptance of it and you're shifting things about. But you will find you'll be working on that over the next 2 weeks. Healthy boundaries with Pisces landing in the 6th house. Now, for those hopes and dreams to come through, this is a level up like no tomorrow, and I feel you guys will be absolutely on fire in the month of March. But these hopes and dreams, that it's a Britney song. I don't need to say it, Libra. If you're wanting it, you've got to work, okay? And 6th house can be to do with how are you showing up in the world? How are people viewing you? But it's also those hopes and dreams, to make that happen, what you're going to do to make that situation move. I do feel with Pisces falling in the area of the 6th house, 6th house can be noted as the house of hidden enemies, as I mentioned. So it's work environment, habits, routine, it's quality assurance 101. So if circumstances relating to that 5th house have been affecting you, take stock of that during this time, because Jupiter mid-year will be retrograding into the 6th house for you. So if you find that your diet's off, and maybe you've been changing that, maybe you've been getting your health in order, this can be a time to nurture, care for yourself, and get life in balance so it doesn't really creep up on you at the end of the year. Jupiter expands things, so this can be health related dynamics, it can be diet, really getting grounded and having that work-life balance, I feel. So be it it's at home, and be it you can shift things around to get that motivation energy. Let me tune into 6th house. Orange chakra. Okay, motivation. Very Mars energy, and potentially because Taurus was there. Taurus was making all of us hungry. Mars and Taurus, that's right. As it shifts over to Gemini, it should ease up and we can be more active. So this is a perfect time moving from the end of the full moon into March, where on the 3rd we're going to have Mars transit into Gemini. Okay, let's have a look at the fire signs. Now, number one, I will say that between now and next month of the 3rd, we are going to have Mars transiting into Gemini. So let's see during this Virgo moon phase what's coming up for the fire signs. Aries, healthy boundaries. Okay. Again, 6th house placement. Now, being that it's a full moon, you may have been working extremely hard. It might have been really, really difficult during Mercury retrograde to achieve some of those hopes and dreams. Now, you might have found some real flaws in the system, and with Mars hitting your natal 2nd house placement, balancing between is money worth it and isn't it for some of you might have been a circumstance, but definitely some of you could have been working extremely hard, or stress relating to the 2nd house, but a lot of expenses nevertheless. Now that should ease up as we move into March, but you definitely have the energy there where some things to do with your health, your diet, Your daily routine is set to change, and that can be environmental as well. It might be our connections, our contracts, our partnerships, as we did have Mercury and Venus in the house of Aquarius. So pay attention to that. Sit with the energy. I feel you may be I think a lot of us will be psychoanalyzing situations that have been quite difficult and looking at means of where we can transform it. Now, as we have Pisces energy there, again, I'm looking at the stability of it, the longevity of it. Can you keep it up? It's very Pluto energy with the 8th house. Is this feasible? It's like a stock take in life, Aries. So I see you doing that. This can also be looking at insurances and policies and, really getting to an organisation point. And maybe some of that have been most difficult during that effect. So I do see you getting things in order, but definitely wanting deeper connections. And if you felt disrespected, I see you really shifting that about. Leo, let's have a look at yours. Now, you guys may feel like, gosh, it's all happening. The reason I say that is mid-January we had, or more towards the end rather, but we were in shadow phase by mid, so we had Mercury going retrograde in your Venus house, and it might have felt like some might have been really stoked about it. But again, this was an opportunity to see what was and what wasn't working. How you felt to do with previous circumstances, and you would have been looking at everything: work, contracts, connections, and how that felt for you. Now, some of you may be looking at, you might have felt that you were doing all the work. And that's because you got Taurus in the 10th house, and Mars was really there. So wounds relating to give and take. Maybe you being the main breadwinner in a circumstance for some of you, not all of you. And Pisces is landing in your 8th house, so you're looking at that now. You're looking at, okay, needing to create a stable foundation. This can be to do with a decision that you're going to make in the future moving forward, and how to create stability inside of it. Also, not willing to have anyone in your life if they're not willing to come correct. And when we say correct, it's more the give and take in situations. Can you deepen the bond? Can you get the communication there? Can you depend on that person? Can it be a team? No I in team. Self-esteem also from the 2nd house can come up, and definitely from food consumption. You might have felt a bit imbalanced. That should ease up as we move away from it, and you're going to take the direct actions. This can also be where you get your money from. And really this can be study as well, because Virgo is to do with details. You guys are really great at owning your own businesses, to be quite honest. And it is because you're Leo in nature, it's your placements in your chart, you're born leaders. Don't second guess yourself with that, especially in this modern era. It's not looking so flash at the moment, but trust me, it will balance out. Okay, Sagittarius, let's have a look at your chart. Now, you do have the South Node there. You've got an interesting year. I've been through your chart before. And when I say that, I mean, emotionally speaking, the placements that you have activated at the moment, I have lived through that. It is not fun. So, love and light to you, Sag. Now, number one is there may have been a little leveling up going on when it did come to the 6th house. Now, make sure you pay attention to your health. Make sure you're looking after yourself. You might have found that work was very stressful. We had Mars there. We had Black Moon, Lilith, and Taurus. We also had Mars. Now, it's transiting on the 3rd of March into Gemini. So you can get some reprieve, but it is moving into your Venus house. So pre-warned, forearmed. It's all eyes back on that. And that can be a good thing. We'll go into that next month, okay? More so because sometimes we learn that it's not necessarily what people want from us, it's what we thought they wanted from us, and there can be misunderstandings. So it's a tough one to move through, but you learn a lot. So you will benefit out of it. Trust the process. Now, number one, you do have 10th house placement, which does fall in your career zone, but it's also the work you're putting into circumstances. This is to do with career, reputation, fame, or lack of. you know, something could be coming to a close. You may end a cycle. You may spiritually feel you're changing the way in which you're going to do something. This could even be, although it's a full moon and it means an ending, it might be that you complete a task and you actually feel spiritually you've completed it, regardless of how it's going to land. Looking back at all the transformation you had in your life and where you are right now, it doesn't physically mean you have to lose your job, or it may be that it's changed you. And the way you look at work now, you're getting a vibration more so of, okay, if I'm working and I'm working really hard, what can I do to create that balance, especially when it moves towards Pisces, both home and work? Some of you could be working from home. What can you do to make that dream happen? Some of you potentially might be wanting to purchase a home, and that can be coming up in an intuitive level, and it can also be shifting of home at this point. So preparing for it, getting things in order, but wondering how you're going to balance both. Sit with it for a little bit. As Mercury goes direct, if there has been any, conflict and wondering how it's going to adjust, you should find that things should start flowing more effectively. On to the water signs. Very warm welcome, water signs. Thank you for joining us. Now let's have a look at those of you. Let's have a quick look. Okay, Pisces, as I mentioned, you guys can be feeling this energy quite heavily. So we will start off with your zodiac sign next. Okay, Pisces, let's have a look at yours. Now, number one, we are moving into next month's energy, which will be Pisces season. So, sometimes that can be a little bit, what would I say? First house is hard work. Go and ask an Aquarian right about now. They'll be, admitting the same. So you do have Aquarius on your 12th house. There might have been a time where you wanted to be closer to people, or people may have been driving you a little bit crazy. Maybe your understanding of people was differing. Maybe the way you were seeing groups at the moment was really changing. Maybe the way you felt inside your family had changed and shifted. Now, we did have Taurus linking to your third house. It might have been quite a time in which a lot of money was going out. Some of you may have had expenses relating to vehicles, technology, and cars. But again, being that the Virgo moon is falling, really looking at, some of you could be emotionally thinking back to a past connection, and letting something go, making peace with it, being open to, new ways of being. And this can be with the direct same person, but it may feel as though we're needing to make peace with something. This can also be in your employment and the things that you had, maybe going over subjects in your mind to do with family, childhood conditioning and connections. So definitely I would say, from a romance point of view, you potentially could have anywhere from the base chakra to the yellow chakra out of balance. Do a guided meditation based on those areas. Your home will be very active next month. So we do have the North Node in Gemini. You could be spending a great deal of time in that domain at the moment and going into hermit mode. And your perspective and perception of people, you potentially could make a great psychologist at this point with your chart. So try and get grounded, do a crown chakra clearing and the lower chakras, and rest and recoup. Make peace with those things. There's no iron tone when it comes to connections, so sit with it. You can use pink quartz to balance it because it is the love domain, and because Virgo relates to higher heart chakra, you could have memories coming up. Do a bath. If you can't get in the bath, use salts to actually cleanse the skin. Sit by moonlight, journal, and cast it into the wind and make peace, especially if it's loved ones that have passed over and you want to speak to them. They directly come through to you in your dream state. They can come through to you in your mind's eye, and they touch base with us in different ways. So, if you're needing help with that, you can go to the link below, and I'm happy to give you a channel message. Let's get on to the next zodiac sign. Cancerians, so your energy. Virgo is landing in your third house. So, you know, you could have been, this is funny, but not. Communication may have been an issue, but at the same time, you might have been extremely busy. You know, having frustration with traffic, driving around, going a bit crazy. But also, in a communication sense, there can be things that you're trying to come to terms with and let go, and it can be things that people have said to you. You might have felt, due to fatigue, a little bit ratty. And that can be because you did have the nodes in your chart, you know, last cycle, and now we're moving into the age energy, which we did start a while ago, the age of Aquarius, but we're moving through that process now. Mercury was hitting your 8th house, and I do feel this need to have a solid connection. This anxiousness can come from stability, but it's more from trusting the process. And I feel you're working extremely hard. You may feel extremely fatigued. Also, you know, with the 8th house, we can also have, especially with the Virgo nature and Pisces coming through, you may find your guides with the 8th house are coming through, and it can be loved ones that are passed over. Making peace with the circumstance. This can also be relating to a car or an inheritance, which does make sense because there's third house being car. It can be technology, gifts, and things to that degree at a very separate level. But Pisces is in your 9th house. Some of you may be tuning into distance. This can be distance travel, a dream to go abroad. It might be you know, seeing things in a different level, and it could also be marriage because the 9th house is there. So looking at your spiritual connections, but looking at relationships point blank zero, and really wanting to have a firm connection. Looking at a team orientated circumstance. You might find that emotionally you may fear speaking your truth. If you do, you feel there's a consequence, but you can see through the circumstance. It can be speaking to somebody, you know, maybe allowing a situation to be fluid and feeling safe with that. But again, it can be throat chakra. So do a guided meditation relating to throat chakra. Try and balance that out. Sit with the anxious energy and cast it into the wind. And, you know, if you need to shout, shout. Shout to the moon. Love and light. Hi, beautiful Scorpio. Now, you had Taurus hitting your 7th house placement. So, contracts, you might have been working extremely hard. Again, you might have been pouring a lot of energy into those circumstances, but maybe really reassessing your employment, the value, the give and take in connections. That should be set to ease, but you will be looking at more the element of stability, sharing, intimacy. It also can be where it's the house of healthy codependency. So again, it can be deepening of a connection, but it's also requiring that inside your life. Now, the Virgo energy is coming through in relation to your hopes, dreams, and aspirations. So you may have thought you wanted something, and now potentially you could be changing your mind, or you're taking the direct steps, making peace with the past. Now, Aquarius was linking back to the 4th house. There may have been circumstances surrounding that from the past in your childhood that affected such. Family conditioning, family circumstances, social responsibility. And now that you're looking at, you're shifting things about. Now, this is going to help balance out, you know, elements to do with inner child, especially as we are moving into Pisces season. This can be quite a fertile time. It also can be the element for you of co-creative endeavors and brand new beginnings for your hopes and dreams. And it can also be a development of a, you know, tapping in with romance, tapping in with luxuries. I would highly suggest with it to do a guided meditation. Hopes, dreams, and aspirations from a Virgo nature. Tune into, you know, is this what you feel you desire, or is it a society paradigm? That would be my best advice. because it needs to be really relevant to you. Also, try not to be too critical on yourself if you haven't achieved some of these things, because the correction of it will be a brand new beginning. So it's turning over that new leaf. I usually say if we've found one way something doesn't work, it's eliminated one way not to do it to actually get that one step closer to how to do it. So it's glass half full, glass half empty analogy. 11th house can be even your social endeavors, the things that you liked, what your aspirations were. Really sit back and journal for a little bit, sit with it. Try not to force yourself to make any harsh decisions. It is putting our feelers out. It's intuitive in nature, and I would say by the 13th you should know how you feel. But again, do a spiritual bath, do a little bit of journaling, and use some Tumblr because sometimes we can feel very much unsure about which way to go. Balance the orange chakra from a fair-based frequency, but also just sit with it personally and try not to put pressure on thyself. It might have been hard work also, so you may be quite fatigued from having to make those things happen in your own personal life due to circumstances. Key themes to know during the Virgo moon for all of us collectively will be that it will be throat chakra and higher heart chakra due to the fact it's Mercury in nature. We may get stuck in the third eye, so I have tried to mention as much as possible inside your zodiac signs where blockages can be coming from. Now we will move into the guided meditation to get prepared for this Virgo moon. Love and light, guys. Now we're taking a moment to move into the frequency of the full moon in Virgo. And with all the hustle and bustle that we endured, taking that little bit of time to drop everything we're doing, have some time to sit with it. A lot of it is going to come to us very naturally. Emotions can be running high, as well as, preparing ourselves for that reset is going to be required through this transit. We can use bath oils, salts, clear the home, and maybe even get prepared well and truly before the Virgo moon. I would strongly suggest you allow and you move into the vibration of self-care. So this can be having baths with Epsom salts, balancing those chakra points, potentially even looking at the circumstances around us and giving ourselves enough time to practice that self-care. Dropping the dishes, not worrying about those circumstances just for a moment. And you could feel this vibration potentially for 2 to 3 days, easing into it and easing out of it. So we're going to move into the vibration and we're going to move into peacefulness for just a few moments to quieten the mind. Breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in and breathe out. Everything's in harmony. Now we're going to count down and we're going to come out of this energy. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Take a breath. Plant your feet on the floor. and take it slow. Thanks so much for all of you joining me. Please look after yourself. Stay grounded, trust the process, journal if you need to. I will see you during the week. Love and light. Please stay tuned for any of the astrology updates and take care. Love and light.